All right, everyone. Well, we are back, and this morning we are very luckily joined by the Bellator Flyweight champion, Liz Carmouche. So, Liz, firstly, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So, getting straight into it, Liz, you're obviously one of the most well-experienced fighters in the women's divisions, having started your pro career all the way back in 2010. In your opinion, what has been the biggest technical development in women's MMA in the 2010 era compared to now? As from my perspective, it's the ability for all of the athletes to mix it up as true mixed martial artists.
Yeah, I would say that the accessibility for women is what has dramatically changed the technical advancements that you're seeing. When you look at a 2010 fighter, for the most part, that's excelling in the divisions, to someone today, it's like night and day. It looks like a street fighter as opposed to a technician. And that's really just that more and more gyms have opened up and allowed women and encouraged them to train with them.
There's I understand. I've read that you grew up in Okinawa in Japan, which I have a friend who lives there, and it's quite a military heavy area of Japan. I know growing up there and finishing your schooling there and sort of being exposed to the military a little more than, say, the average person. Do you think that's the reason why you joined the military, maybe through influence, or was it something that you grew up always kind of wanting to be a part of?
No, I would definitely say that having grown up in that huge influence with the military, it certainly shapes it. And honestly, what a big contributing factor is that I didn't come up from a family that had money to support going to college. And being in Okinawa, we didn't have scouts for the opportunity to come out to assess us to be able to play sports. I excelled in sports, and I was told that if I could just see a scout, that there'd be no doubts I could get a full ride to go to school. But I couldn't afford college, let alone go out to get an assessment from one of the college scouts. So I was like, well, I mean, what else do I have other than joining the military and seeing the Marine Corps and the military personnel really influenced my decision, why it just made the most sense for my life.
For sure. So sort of speaking on that transition from the military into fighting, what sort of aspects, whether they are mental or physical, were you able to translate from your time in the military into your martial arts journey?
I think the adversity that I faced and being able to overcome the adversity in the military, understanding the development of hardships and how that can help shape you to be stronger, and that under even the most difficult situations with nothing to help get you through anything, you can still come out on the flip side. The military, particularly the Marine Corps, encourages and teaches you that we'll give you nothing, but you still have to produce something. And so I've always had that confidence that even if I had nothing else to back me, no support system, that I can always excel and do well, and that I have the discipline necessary to push myself and have the drive to always be the best version of myself. And that all of that was a huge influence on my success and my ability to continue through my MMA career.
Liz, we know you train out of the arena in San Diego, California, a martial arts gym with a prestigious history, obviously dating back to 1949, when it was only a judo and jiu-jitsu gym. Whilst it may not have the name amongst casuals, such as your Winkle John and AKA ATT, in my opinion, it has an incredibly underrated coaching staff with ADCC medalists and UFC alumni and Baron Yoshido and Chris Lieben, respectively. In your opinion, what makes the arena the perfect home for Liz Carmouche to obviously develop over the years and grow as a martial artist?
There's a few different factors. Like you said, is the coaching staff is really overlooked on what they offer at the gym. There's an Olympic boxing coach. We have Baron Yoshido, who has excelled for 20 years as a black belt in jiu-jitsu and is still actively going and nonstop evolving his game, and has also had an professional MMA background. So he's able to offer input in different positions for us in different submissions that other coaches wouldn't be able to. They're strictly doing it from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, which doesn't always work for MMA. Mm-hmm. And then you have people like Charles Martinez, who I've really connected with. He has a military background, so we're able to have that connection with each other. And then my mom's born and raised in New York City, being raised in New York City. So from my personal connection, we just blend really well. And the way that he talks to and understanding that I've had a lot of different coaches that it's very narrow thinking when it comes to what they want to do. Charles is very much about everything that you can bring into it, the better. Learn about your body, grow yourself emotionally, grow yourself physically, always try and challenge yourself. And he encourages, like, yeah, you want to go to a seminar, you want to go experience something at other gyms, go to it. the gyms I was at previously, it was very much, no, stay within this box, have loyalty. All that other new wave stuff is just new wave. It's stupid. It's just fads. You don't need to do any of that. And it's really just a lack of understanding and a lack of interest in growth. And at the arena, it's the opposite. Everybody is about, hey, you have something new. Let's all grow together and blend it and see how we can help influence each other and grow the entire sport. You want to go over there? Great. Maybe they come back to us and we can all have a back and forth cohesive relationship. And you don't really find that other places. And that's what I needed, was people that weren't going to hinder and hold me back, but people that were going to help encourage me to grow and understand that I love to evolve and continue on this path.
Yep, for sure. And getting that relationship in the gym with your coaches where you do have the freedom to go out and explore is just so important, I think, as a martial artist. Mm-hmm. So, Liz, when you look at the next generation of up-and-coming fighters, as someone who's been in the sport now for over a decade and is competing at the highest level of the sport, what's something you feel that the next generation can bring to the table that's maybe different from the current generation of fighters, whether that's a technical aspect or a mental approach?
I think this new generation offers so many different things that you don't see in the current one. For one, they're starting to understand how important it is to invest in their body, not just for the now, but for the longevity if they want to continue in the sport or just be healthy when their fight is over. Right. So that's completely different. Our generation doesn't think like that. We're kind of like, oh, well, we already messed up our bodies. Now how do we fix this? Instead of continue this process, it's a lifestyle. Let's treat our body the way we want it to perform. They've been doing it, a lot of us, since they're 4 years old. So by the time that they turn 18, they're ready to be black belts. They're already world champions in kickboxing and Muay Thai. They've been wrestling since they were little. So they've been unfair. MMA athletes their whole. It's so unfair. So they come into it healthy. They come into it with a different approach, a different work ethic, and a different understanding of their bodies. And now they're also starting to realize just how important MMA is, not just for our physical, but for emotional and mental development. And that you can be a great technician, but if you're weak emotionally and if you're weak mentally, it's going to take away from the other ones. And you don't see that with our generation. So this up and coming generation, they're going to be monsters. Oh, I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Liz, you're obviously always a top contender, as well as a two-time title challenger in the UFC. Since signing with Bellator in December of 2019, in your opinion, what has been the biggest difference that you've noticed being with Bellator compared to, say, the UFC?
I would say the biggest and most identifiable difference that I can tell is the staff. I know who the staff is from the day that I signed to every single fight. Nobody's changed, is on changing hands. They brought on one new person since I signed with them, and that's it. So every person I've met, if I need to communicate, I need to touch base with them for anything regarding fights, anything medical, anything at all, I know exactly who I'm talking to. And UFC constantly, I'd reach out and they're like, oh, I don't work for them anymore. Sorry, it's somebody else. I'm like, who do I talk to? Yeah. Like, this is important. They're like, sorry, which is also part of the communication errors that came in when I got cut from the UFC, is because people weren't talking to each other because they didn't know each other. And that's a huge difference that I can see between the UFC and Bellator. It's a smaller organization and they want to keep it small so that way everybody is benefiting from it and everybody gets paid the most that they can.
For sure. So, Liz, you obviously most recently captured the Bellator Flyweight title. Was winning the title almost a vindication of how good you are? Or did you already feel that you were at that championship caliber, given some of the names that you've already beat, like Caitlin Chikagian, Jennifer Maia, Lauren Murphy, and many others?
Yeah, to some degree, I felt like I've been a champion. I just haven't had the title to reflect it. I know the work ethic I put in. I know how many years I've been doing this, the people that I've beat, and constantly the mindset that I have. And people look to me a lot of times for information and how to act themselves. So I know that's who I've been. It's just a matter of having that title to actually show people this is a reflection of what I've always put in.
For your first title defense, Liz, who can you see in the division that's, sort of securing that first crack at your title? Do you think, you're likely to see a fighter you've already faced, such as Akano Watanabe, or do you think a fresh challenger could present itself to you in the near future? Potentially someone like a Lima McFarlane or Justine Kiss?
Yeah, after Kish's performance against Alima, I could definitely see how she could be the next for title contention. Unfortunately, I think that Alima, having back-to-back 2 losses, dropped her out of contention and lowered her in the division. So I don't see it at least in my mind, I don't see it being her being one of the next possibilities as much as it'd be a great show. And I could absolutely see it being Kana after her last performance and how well she did, that she could have worked her way back up and had an opportunity to now rematch me for title contention.
Yeah, for sure. So Liz, look, last question from us, and thank you very much for giving us some time today. You've been a lead spokesperson for medicinal marijuana and CBD products for benefiting athletes and was one of the earlier combat sports athletes to be promoting its use. How did your involvement with these treatments come about? Was it a case of you reaching out to people in the industry looking to get involved, or were you approached?
No, actually, it came from one of my training partners. There's this guy, Kendall Madden. He's in charge of Road Warrior Foundation. And so I knew him for the adventure therapy he did for veterans. And I also know that he was a wounded veteran himself. And so I was curious to know, because just the way he presented, his professionalism, his great charisma, to me didn't exhibit somebody that was on opiates to treat the pain they experienced from their injuries. And so I wanted to know, like, hey, how are you able to do this? Because you're training all the time, and I know you're getting just as beat up as I am, and you're not big on taking all these things, at least from what I can tell. And he's like, no, I don't take ibuprofen, I don't take opiates, I don't do any of that. I'm like, how are you able to? And he's like, I use medicinal marijuana, and I'm a big person for CBD. And I was like, oh, okay, you don't strike me as that type of guy, but okay. And then as I talked with him more, and then he also introduced me to other veterans, I just understood that CBD isn't this product that's going to get you high, and it's not what everybody thinks it is, right? But I didn't know that. I was one of those people that's uneducated. So I did research, looked into it, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to try this out because these are people that I respect. These are people that are professionals. These are people that are doing well. They're not lazy. They don't look like they're getting high all day long. They don't reflect what most people think of as THC and marijuana users, right? So maybe there's more to this, because I also know they're not willing to go out and put anything at risk in their lives. So I was, okay, I'll do the research. If this is what it says it is, I should be okay. Tried it out, loved the results, and just knew that even if it wasn't something I was going to preach to everybody around the world, it was definitely something that I need in my life, because I'm not big on taking things like ibuprofen when I know it's mostly hurting my body for the few benefits you get out of it.
100%. Well, look, Liz, we know you're in traffic and you're in the car, so we want to let you go, but we really appreciate you giving us some time. Like, I know I speak for Alex, and we've both been following your career since the early 2000s and early 2010s. And to see you finally get that title is, and the fruits of your labor pay off is nice to see. It's good seeing people that don't quit and keep going, and you finally got the title. So we're really happy for you. We can't wait to see you compete next, and we'd love to chat to you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz.